22-year-old Masa Amini was killed in Iran at the hands of the so-called morality police last September, sparking ongoing protests and outrage across the country. We're now hearing reports of schoolgirls being poisoned throughout Iran. This comes on the heels of the regime announcing that it will crack down on protesters and punish women for violating Islamic dress code. To discuss where the protests stand and the latest in Iran, I'm joined by Elham Yatanchi of Santa Monica College. Elham, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start off by asking, how much do you think we will see change on the governmental level based on these protests and what we've heard from the government?
Well, this situation is kind of complex due to many factors. The women of Iran rise up every so often. If you look at the modern history of Iran, they do rise up even more when they are suppressed. So this is another one of those instances when they rise up and Mahsa Amini's death, even though the media in Iran tried to show a different image of it and say that it wasn't really by the so-called morality police, and she died of her own and was pre-existing conditions and so forth. This allowed a lot of people to empathize with her, because she was only 22. She's a minority, layered minority, Kurdish, because Kurds are being suppressed even more by the central government because they don't want the Kurds to have their own independence and so forth. So the women rise in Iran every so often, and it comes in waves.
Have we seen this level of sustained protest in Iran before, and this level of retaliation by the government?
Yes, unfortunately, the answer is yes. I wish I could say no, this is the first time and it's going to have a very nice future, but I can't give you that answer. Right after the revolution, 1979, there was a period in which we call the Spring of Freedom, where a lot of people were inspired by change, wanted to have a different way of life and so forth. And in March 8, 1979, a lot of women went into the streets and they said, we want change. We want to have autonomy over our bodies, over our the way we cover our hair or not, and so forth. And then in 2009, most recently, the Green Movement, a lot of people rose up because the candidates that were approved by the Supreme Leader were not allowed to get to any governmental position. And in 2009, the movement, which were also led by women, was crushed. So every time this happens, one thinks, oh, this is it. This is going to make the change possible. But the regime in Iran is as powerful as China and Russia. And so you can compare them with those countries. They won't stop.
These protests that are going on right now are about women's rights and primarily led by women and girls. What message do you think the women and girls involved in these protests are trying to send?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what they want to say is that, look, we have no grand visions. We have no illusion. We don't want to change anything in the structure, in the supreme leader or IRGC or whatever. We just want to have freedom over our own bodies. And, I think the advent of technology is to their advantage, because you can no longer say, oh, that person lives in Lorestan or Khuzestan. They know nothing about outside of Iran. That's not the case, because they all have mobiles and they can all check BTS, and they actually love BTS. The group in the music group in South Korea. All they're saying is that why can't we have these freedoms? Because the government every so often cuts their internet. Nobody's saying let's take off all the whales, because they know that's not possible. They live with moms who are whaled. That's not what they're saying. All they're saying is that let me choose.
Iran's supreme leader has come out against these poisonings, but it's still unclear who's behind them. Why do you think young women are being targeted this way right now?
Because there is no free flow of information in Iran, it's very, very easy to blame others. So, Supreme Leader of Iran is a very, very intelligent man. He also tries this blaming game. And he says, well, let's go and find out who is behind them, because he can easily blame the ethnic minorities, the religious minorities. But one thing is clear, it's systematic, and it is targeting young women, because the young women are the ones who dare to stand up. I'm a mom of two. I can't. I won't have the courage to. I mean, maybe I did 30 years ago, but not now. I'm not going to go out and protest and say, oh, I want my um, own personal freedom and so forth. But these young girls and these young women, they have nothing to lose, basically, because they think a lot has been taken from them.
How would you recommend people who want to get involved help?
I think I would give my own example. Years ago, even up to 2009, I wanted to join the global community or my own local community and voice the protesters' plight. You've got to think globally and act locally, and be very sensitive to what you read, where you read it from, and what it means. So, my advice is, if you read the news, always question, especially in the context of Middle East and North Africa, because the complexities of identities are so enmeshed with politics now, that requires a very informed consumer of news.
Do you see a path forward for women and girls in Iran right now?
I'd love to say yes. Oh, absolutely. And that would be nice, because who wouldn't want to end an interview on a good note? No, I don't. I don't think, not in a near future, because the government of Iran has a lot of economic hands all over the region, and it's going to be quite hard to make a crack in the status quo. Um, and yes, the government itself is fractured, and yes, there are a lot of help or external ties that this civil movement can make globally. But then at the same time, there are 85 million people in Iran, and they don't all live in Tehran, where it's urban and have really good access to, doctors and so forth. Um, and then there are all these geopolitical politics that get in the way. I hope so, and I think it will at one point, but I just don't know when.
Elhan Gitanji of Santa Monica College, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you contacting me. Thank you.